Thank you for joining today's program with Jerianne Thompson, who is the director of the Tualatin Library. She's joining us on March the 2nd, 2022. She's been, for a couple of decades, climbed to the top of her game, as it says right there in the slide in front of you, in the library business. Started off in Tennessee, and she did a number of jobs there before she came to Tualatin. But since 2018, she's been our library director. And for us, I think it was very fortunate timing in that there have been challenges. We've had a pandemic, and there's maker spaces and all kinds of things that need to be done. And plus, she's also doing some other creative things that Larry will uncover in his interview. So with that, I would like to hand this over to Larry. Larry, you're on mute.
So yes, good to be with you today and to share this, help Jerianne tell her story of how it came to be that she came to Tualatin and what's going on in the library world here today and what the future might hold. So let's just start, Jerianne. How did you decide you wanted to work in the library world way back when?
Yeah, well, first I want to say thank you for inviting me to participate in your program today. It's definitely an honor to be here. So in 2002, I was living in Tennessee, which is where my family is from. And I had moved there just shortly before 9/11 and didn't really have very good luck finding a job, finding a full-time job. So I had just been working some part-time jobs when I saw an advertisement for a reference clerk position at the Smyrna Public Library in Smyrna, Tennessee. And when I was an undergraduate student studying journalism, I worked at my college library at the University of Tennessee at Martin. And I really enjoyed that experience. And so I thought, you know, in combining that enjoyment of that experience with my background and being able to do research for journalism, it seemed like a good fit for me. So I applied and I gratefully got the job. So I started working there as a reference clerk, and I just slowly worked my way up through their library system. This is Rutherford County, Tennessee, near Nashville. And I worked my way up to being a supervisor, and then I became the collection development coordinator, which made me responsible for buying all the books and movies and things for all 4 libraries in our library system. And I worked there until 2011. And at that time, I was just looking for something new. I was looking for a new challenge and started looking across the nation for a new library job. And one of the jobs that was posted that I saw was for a Public Services Supervisor here at Tualatin Public Library. And I remember when I saw that job announcement, I got so excited because it was exactly what I was looking for. It seemed to match up perfectly with the experience that I had. And Tualatin seemed like an interesting town. I was looking to move to a city that was about the size of Tualatin, but in a metropolitan area, which was perfect. So I came out here and interviewed, and I fell in love with the place immediately. The library is just such a beautiful place. I don't know how you can't fall in love with it when you walk in there. And of course, getting to meet and talk to the staff, that was another thing that really sold me on coming to this library, because the staff at Tualatin Library are just so wonderful. They're so friendly and so good at their jobs. And so when the job was offered to me, it was a no-brainer to come and accept it.
Thank you very much. Well, was this before the big remodeling or after that?
It was after the remodeling, yes. So the library had reopened, and yeah.
Great. Well, you mentioned magazines, purchases, and decisions like that. What is this thing that's called zines that you were involved with? Something about magazines and rhymes?
Well, it's about zines, yeah. So zines are independently published small publications. They're often made with a photocopier, so they're not professionally printed. And they can exist on all kinds of different topics and subjects, from personal writing to investigative writing to comic strips and drawings. It's a really wide range of subjects that are included in zines. And that was something that I was involved in my 20s and 30s. It was, you know, I really liked writing. And so when I got introduced to zines when I was in college, it was just something that it really appealed to me because of the writing and being able to create your own publication. It was just something really neat to participate in.
Great. So how is the world of libraries changing over those years? You've seen it grow as a young person and now the director of ours.
Mm-hmm.
What's changing these days?
Yeah, well, you know, I think the Tualatin Library has done a really excellent job staying at the forefront of, you know, as libraries evolve. One of the things that we're seeing in public libraries is that they really are more than just a place to go get books. They've become like community centers. They've become places where you can come and get experiences with things. They're very interactive and offer lots of different kinds of opportunities. So I think Tualatin has, like I said, has been at the forefront of some of these changes. And, you know, one of the things that we see, of course, is changes in what people are checking out. So just in the time that I've been at Tualatin Library, which has been about 10 years now, certainly we've seen big drop-offs in checkouts of music CDs, movies, Blu-rays, DVDs, all those things. People don't, and audiobooks too. They don't get checked out as much as they used to because there's so many other options that people have access to now, thanks to the internet. You know, whether it's buying books through Amazon or streaming movies through Netflix or using Audible for your audiobooks, there's just lots of opportunities out there. But what I can say is people do still check out books. And where we've seen the growth is in the checkout of children's materials. So definitely families are big users of the Tualatin Library, and that is something that has continued to grow over the years that I've been here.
So people are still reading, and so that's a big fallacy, really. We keep hearing why people need books anymore, something to hold in their hand when they can read it on a screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, people enjoy books in lots of different ways, and there's nothing wrong with reading an ebook or reading a book on a screen. And you know, we do have ebooks available through the library system as well. So to me, libraries are a great equalizer. We provide an access to things that you don't have to have any special privileges. Anybody can walk in and access things in our library. And so, you know, some people are very fortunate to be able to afford things like, you know, private ebooks and streaming movie services, but some people are not. And even those who are able to afford it, there's still a really personal connection to be made with physical books, especially for children, I think, because of the illustrations and, you know, there's so many things that go into reading and learning to read that I think books will continue to be popular, especially with children and young adults for the many years to come.
So don't you deliver some of those services through children, for example, through reading to them with little groups? And I used to before COVID. I mean, you would know, or we would see notices of family times together, storytelling, other things like that.
Yeah, definitely. And that's been really hard part about COVID. You know, the fact that the Tualatin Library, it does a lot of programming. We do so many programs through the year, and that's been the hardest thing with COVID, is to have to stop doing those programs in person, especially the story times with the littlest children who are just learning how to read. Story time is such a fabulous thing because it's really an early literacy workshop. You know, it's more than just sitting down and reading a book. It's really about learning how to decode words and phonics. It's about using different aspects of the book to help the child learn how to read, like the illustrations. There's so much that goes into story time, and we're really looking forward to getting back to offering those in-person programs. Thankfully, you know, with the way things have been evolving and changing, I think that in April, we're going to be able to start offering more in-person programs again, and hoping to start some in-person story times this spring or this summer.
Well, I've noticed as a resident, you propose some things that sound way off the wall to me, like recipes. Come over and pick up a baggie or something with the recipe ingredients, go home and cook it. And so what is all that about?
Yeah, so since we had to stop doing in-person programs because of COVID, our library staff came up with some really creative activities for families to be able to enjoy. And one of them, like Larry mentioned, is our Take and Bake program. So we have one of our librarians who finds a recipe, puts the recipe together, and then you could come to the library and get a bag of dry ingredients. And you can follow along with the video that he does about how to make the recipe. And that's been really popular. Another one that we've done is just called Take and Makes, which are really craft items. So people come in and they can pick up a bag and it has all the craft supplies and the instructions, and then they can take that home and work on it together as a family. So even though we haven't been able to get people together in person at the library, we've tried to still provide opportunities for education and enjoyment.
So do you think something like that will continue after COVID's over?
I think some of it will be stopping just because we really want to focus on getting back to those in-person programs. And so we need to make sure that our staff have time to adequately plan and prepare for those programs. We've got a small staff, so we're pretty lean, and sometimes we have to make choices about what we can do. And so I think I will see some of those things starting to fade out as we go back to more in-person programs.
Well, I know you were involved several years back when the city was awarded the America's Best Community Award, which put us at the top almost of that competition nationwide. And as a result, I think it was $100,000 award to the city for something that's involved steam. Now that's not like a steam engine, is it?
No. STEAM is an acronym. It stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Math. So it's about taking technical and science learning, but combining it with creativity for brain development. So yes, the library became a partner in that activity through America's Best Communities competition. And we helped to develop a mobile makerspace, which was a trailer that had different kinds of equipment in it that we can bring out into the community and offer those hands-on learning opportunities through that mobile makerspace. So we did that for a couple of years, and then that led to us building a makerspace in the library itself.
Great. So that too will be back in function again after we get back safe again.
Yes, the makerspace is open now.
Okay.
So when the library closed because of COVID for a period of time, we decided that was a great opportunity to do this construction project and to build this new makerspace. So we were able to do all of the construction while the library was closed. And a couple of months ago, the makerspace officially opened for people to come in and use. We have 4 days a week where you can come in and visit our open hours in the makerspace. And we're working on developing more programs and opportunities for people to come in and use the equipment and other supplies that are in the room. So I want to give you a little bit of an idea of what's in this makerspace, because I'm guessing a lot of you probably haven't been in to see it yet. It's a room inside the library that's filled with technical equipment and creative supplies. And the idea is that it's a space where people can come in, they can try some of this equipment, they can interact with each other, they can work together to build things together, and they can create. And we have equipment in that room for all ages. So we have small robotic kits and circuitry kits for kids to learn on, as well as 3D pens, which is a little pen that you can use to draw, and it makes a three-dimensional object. As you move up, we have some things that are a little more advanced, like leather working tools, wood burning, vinyl cutting, and a heat press. And then you get into the really technical stuff, and that includes a 3D printer, includes a laser cutter, which is a really cool machine that uses a laser to cut into wood or other materials to make three-dimensional objects. We also have a small kiln in the room, so people can do small fired clay and glass work. And we have sewing machines and a serger as well. So it's really a range of different kinds of creativity and technical opportunities that people can get in this space.
So that reminds me, you're dealing back in history with some things as well as some forward-looking ideas. Leatherworking and wood burning reminds me of my 4th grade class here in Oregon, where we had to make a big scrapbook and burn the outline of a covered wagon, I think, on it. And inside it was stuff that we had made over the course of the year. And so now we're sort of seeing that come back again, it sounds like. And so is there safety? Are there safety issues you have to be concerned about? Do you have staff or volunteers?
Yes, we have a dedicated librarian for the makerspace, and we do have safety protocols in place. So in order to use like the 3D printer, you have to go through a little training program first to learn the features and to learn the safety parts of it as well. And then once you've had that training, you can come in and use the equipment.
So that sounds to me like local companies in Tualatin that are in the high-tech world would be very supportive of something like this, right?
Certainly, yes. And that's something that we're working to build those partnerships with companies in the community. We're hoping to be able to gain some new volunteers in the makerspace. So that's something that we're working on right now. Great.
Well, speaking of new things, I heard you also have some very old things like old bones.
Indeed, we do.
And stuff like that. Now, how can you check out a bone?
It's a very interesting and unusual part of our library, but yes, we've got a lovely little natural history display at the library. Of course, all of you know about the mastodon skeleton, I'm sure, that's in the library. But we have other artifacts as well, including other bones from an ancient sloth, an ancient bison skull replica. We've got a replica of a mammoth footprint from a riverbed. And we also have erratic rocks, which are stones and other rocks that got transported here on the Ice Age floods thousands of years ago. So we've worked closely with the Historical Society, as well as with a new nonprofit group in Tualatin called the Ice Age Floods Foundation, to promote this local history. I mean, it's something I never knew about, these Ice Age floods, until I moved here. And it's something that still a lot of people don't know about, how our geography and geology of our area was so greatly influenced by these hundreds of floods that came through here thousands of years ago during the Ice Age.
So do you suppose we're the only library like this in the nation that has mastodon skeleton mounted and big rocks that came across on the floods?
It's definitely unusual, yeah. And as far as I know, we're the only library that has a mastodon skeleton inside it. I haven't found another one yet, so I think that makes us unique.
Okay. So in your work, I know it's just Tualatin Library, but then I've heard of something called the Washington County Cooperative Library Services System. Online, I've seen that. So how does this complement our work in Tualatin?
That's a great question. So Tualatin Library is a part of the Washington County Cooperative Library Services. It's a cooperative system of about 13 libraries throughout Washington County. And through our membership in that library, you've got access to over 1 million items available throughout the county. So we have around 100,000 items on the shelf at the Tualatin Library. You have access to 10 times that amount of material because of our membership in WCCLS. We also have access to ebooks, streaming movies, and lots of online resources through WCCLS that we wouldn't be able to afford as a library just on our own. So it really makes our community library stronger, having this community tie and access to a broader network of library services.
So we don't have to pay for that really as local taxpayers. We're part of the bigger system as well.
That's right. And as a matter of fact, because if you live in Washington County, you can have a library card in Washington County, Clackamas County, or Multnomah County. If you can live in any of those 3 counties, and you can get a library card from any of those 3 counties. So we have interagency agreements that make it possible for that kind of thing, because we really want to make sure people have access to the library services that are most convenient to them. Certainly, a lot of people who live in Tualatin work outside of Tualatin, and a lot of people who work in Tualatin live somewhere else. So it may be more convenient for them to come to the Tualatin Library, even if they live in Portland, because Tualatin's where they work. And so I think it's really beneficial having access to this broader network of libraries like that.
That's great. So what are the most popular features today in the library? You mentioned children's. Is that still the major one?
Yeah, absolutely. Our children's program is really strong, and our teen program is really strong too. We have a group called the Teen Advisory Committee, and it's a group of teen volunteers who in their free time get together and help plan programs for the library, both programs for teens and for younger children. And they also weigh in on library services and library improvements. So a few years ago, we made the decision to update the furniture in the teen room and to repaint the teen room. And those teens got to play a part in that decision-making process. So they get an opportunity to volunteer and to learn some new skills, but they also get this civic engagement opportunity, which I think is really cool.
Great. So, in fact, I've heard that you're always looking for volunteers there at the library, not just teens, I guess, but other adults as well.
Yes, we have lots of different volunteer opportunities. You know, we don't have as many volunteers doing shelving right now, thanks to COVID. But as I said earlier, one of the things that we're looking for is to find more volunteers for our makerspace in particular. And to be a volunteer in that room, you really just have to be open-minded and have a spirit of creativity, because we can train you on how to use the equipment. But we also have other programmatic opportunities coming. So for example, our summer reading program, every year, we have volunteers who help out with that summer reading program. We do a lunch service in the summer in partnership with the Tiger Tualatin School District, and we have volunteers who help out with that as well. We also have volunteer programs for little kids, so to try to get them engaged in the library at an early age.
Well, I've seen people bringing bags of books, apparently from their house, and just leaving them off at a desk as you walk in to the left. And I see some paperwork going on there, and then I don't know what happens to those books. Can you describe that?
Yeah, so that's one way that people can support the library by making donations of used or new books and other materials. Most of those items go to our Friends of the Library. So we have the Tualatin Public Friends of the Library, and they do fundraising throughout the year, mostly through used book sales, to support a wide variety of programs in the library and to support our summer reading program in particular. We've been really fortunate with our Friends group. They're just such great supporters. We have another support group called the Library Foundation, the Tualatin Public Library Foundation. And they are building an endowment for the library's future. And they help support some of our early literacy efforts. And they also were a big supporter in building the makerspace. They donated $100,000 to the construction of the makerspace. So we're really fortunate to have two great groups supporting the library.
And we've typically had a great support over the years, right? In Tualatin, I remember when we moved here in 1972, or soon after, there was a mobile van sitting out in the parking lot over near where Cabela's is today. Mm-hmm. And you could go over there and get a book and return it, I forget the next week or what, but anyway, that's been a great, and from then on, people really got behind the library. It's my impression.
Yes, we're fortunate to have great community support in Tualatin. Tualatin loves its library, and we love being part of Tualatin.
So if a person wants to get involved in the library, what should they do?
They can just come by anytime that the library is open, and we'd be happy to have a chat with you about what volunteers opportunities we have available. Or give us a call, either way.
Good. Well, we do have some folks in the audience today listening in here. And so I'm going to say that anytime someone has a question, Ross will help us get that through whatever way works, chatting or raising the hand or something. Right, Ross?
Yeah, I mean, you can either raise your hand, and if you don't know how to do that, oh, hang on, I've got my, oh no, it's off. Or you can just start talking. Let me start by asking a question myself. You mentioned that your first job in Tualatin was as a public service supervisor.
Mhm.
What does that person do?
That's a great question. Yeah, I should have explained that. So as the Public Services Supervisor, my job was to be in charge of the librarians and the library assistants who buy the books and materials for the library and who do all the programming for the library and who staff the reference desk. So they provide help with answering questions or using the computer or that kind of thing. And I did that job for about 3 years. When the library manager at the time, Abigail Elder, left for another job and the library manager position became open, I decided to apply for it and became the library manager. And then a couple years after that, the community services director, Paul Hennon, who I'm sure many of you know, he retired from the city. At the time, the library was part of the community services department with Parks and Recreation. And when he retired, the city decided to make the library its own department. And that's when I became the library director.
Nice.
And I think, doesn't the library also have meeting spaces or little rooms and a larger space that can be used sometimes, or are there some rules governing that?
Yes, we have 3 small meeting rooms, one that holds about 10 people and 2 that hold 3 or 4 people. And those can be used for up to 2 hours a day by anybody. You can walk in or you can call to make a reservation. We also have a community room, which is a big room at the front of the library where we normally hold a lot of our programs, but it's also available as a space that can be rented for public events. It can't be used for private events like a birthday party or anything like that. But if you wanted to hold some kind of a public event or public information, that's something that you could do in our community room.
Yvonne is still there, and if she's not going to ask the question, I will. You're involved with the Ice Age Foundation.
Yes, I am.
In addition to everything else you've been doing. Could you talk to us about that for a little bit?
Yeah, certainly. So around the same time that I became the library director, this new group was starting to form, the Tualatin Area Ice Age Floods Foundation. And as I said earlier, this group is really dedicated to promoting the Ice Age history of our area. And this group as Yvonne is part of this group, and this group has just done some really great work making partnerships with the National Parks Service so that Tualatin is recognized as a place that you can stop on what's called the Ice Age Floods National Geologic Trail that stretches from Montana through Idaho and Washington into Oregon. And Tualatin is recognized as a location on this trail where you can stop and you can see some of the Ice Age history and things like that from our area. And, you know, one of the things that this group has been working on recently is making a video that talks a little bit about the Ice Age history of our area and how those floods shaped our geology and geography. And it's now available on YouTube. You can look for the Tualatin Ice Age Foundation and you can find our video on YouTube. But we'll be working to share that out with the community more in the weeks to come.
And isn't every September almost a program on this topic at the library?
Yes, that's another partnership we have with the, the Ice Age Floods Institute. They do programs in partnership with the Historical Society throughout the year, and usually every September they host their program at the library. We're hoping that they're going to be able to do that again this year. The last couple of years, because of COVID, of course, we haven't been able to.
Right.
And is that Rick and Sylvia with the Lower Columbia?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Rick and Sylvia, and they're part of our Ice Age Foundation group too. Yeah. Along with Scott Burns, who's a PSU professor of geology.
Right.
And Linda Moholt.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Linda Moholt, the former Chamber of Commerce director, is also part of our group.
Go ahead.
I have a question. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Eleanor. We can hear you.
This is kind of a everyday sort of a question. My mind is always on books. And I just was curious, what do you see, Jerianne, as being the biggest thing that goes out the library door that people request or check out? Books, DVDs, whatever it may be. Just curious.
Hi, Eleanor. It's good to hear your voice. I think adult fiction still tends to be very popular, and those high best-selling authors like James Patterson, Nora Roberts, they're still doing gangbusters at the library. And certainly, children's book series is another popular one. Teen books are also really popular at our library. We have a really good teen book collection. The most popular authors tend to change a little bit year from year, but it's still the names that you recognize.
Okay, thanks.
Do you still have to whisper in libraries these days?
Oh, no.
Oh, not at all. We are not a quiet library by any means.
Sure.
Well, I just think it's amazing that we can go on the internet through your portal, I think, right? And find any book almost you ever thought of wanting, and somewhere you're going to find it and get it to us, right?
That's right. Even if you can't get it through Washington County libraries, we have a service called Interlibrary Loan, where we can borrow books from other public libraries and university libraries throughout the whole country. So if it's something that we don't have in Washington County, we usually can still get it for you.
What about other languages like Spanish?
We have Spanish books in our collection, and then through Washington County libraries, we have access to other languages like Vietnamese, Russian, French, German. Beaverton and Hillsborough libraries in particular have large foreign language selections, and we're able to draw from their resources.
I have a question regarding Tualatin history. Do you have a source of information regarding Tualatin area history? Books?
We do. We have all the books that the Historical Society has produced. And I understand work is underway on a new edition of the Tualatin.
From the beginning.
Tualatin from the beginning. Thank you. Yeah, I've heard that there's a new edition of that coming out, and I'm really excited to see that. But we have, just when you come in the library, underneath the mastodon skeleton, we have a shelf of local history. And then we have other books that available in the collection that you can check out too.
I should report, I go in there once a week to check on bones, which I've been doing for 40 years. But one day when I was in there, a school bus arrived with a West Lynn maybe middle school teacher, and he brought his 40 kids in there, and I couldn't help but asking why he was there. He said he'd been bringing the kids at least 4 or 5 years so that they would see something scientific. So I felt that was a very good thing for you, a very good compliment.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I see Art Sasaki from one of our pioneer families has got his hand up there.
Oh, thanks for catching that, Larry.
There's a lot of things that have become political. What, if anything, is a policy and the challenges associated with politics as it affects the Tualatin Library system?
I would say, we really try to stay out of the political arena. Our goal is to make information and resources available to everybody. So regardless of what a person's political beliefs or stance are, we want them to come in and feel comfortable at our library anytime. There is some, potential for politics to come into play at the Washington County level. We get most of our library funding does come through Washington County instead of from the city of Tualatin. And part of it comes from the Washington County General Fund, and part of it comes from a levy that gets voted on every 5 years. Of course, for that levy to make it on the ballot, the Board of Commissioners has to approve for it to go on the ballot. So there's certainly a potential for those kinds of political influences, but I'd say for the most part, we've been really lucky not to see it play out on our doorstep. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, because politics has become very invasive for all the wrong reasons. And so I'm interested because it has not shown up in the news relative to any controversies associated with the library. And that is a very good thing, in my opinion. And I was curious as to whether there is extreme effort necessary to have that be the case.
I think it's part of our profession to hold these ethics in play, to, like I said, make the library welcoming to everybody. So I know, when I go in, I leave my beliefs at the door. I regardless of what I personally think, it doesn't matter. My job is to be there to provide assistance and to help the community. And that's the attitude that all of our staff have. And really it's, most people coming into the library are respectful of the space in that way. So yeah, I'm really grateful that we haven't seen some of the controversies that have played out at some of the other libraries.
Tell that to the journalism industry.
Jerianne, this is Laura Baker. I have a question. And that is, what's the status of the Library of Things in Washington County? Could you maybe explain that, especially if it's still a viable entity in the county?
Yeah, thank you for asking about that. So the Library of Things is another unusual part about our library, one of the kind of emerging trends that has been happening in public libraries. So basically, it's a collection of items that you can check out, but it includes things like musical instruments, tools, robotic kits. It's a lot of different things. And other libraries have a similar collection. At Beaverton, they have a library of things that includes cookware. So you can get like a air fryer, for example. If you wanted to try out an air fryer before you bought one, you could get one through the Beaverton Library of Things. And at Tualatin, we have ukuleles, we have a microphone, we've got board games as part of our collection now. So you can come in and check out a board game for your family to play at home. And like I said, we have robotics kits for kids. It's a really cool collection, and it's housed right outside of our makerspace. So if you come in to see the makerspace, be sure to check that shelf out.
So what do you wish you could provide with more space and budget?
Oh gosh, we have such a creative staff that, they would come up with so many ideas for programs and services. It would blow your mind. I think our biggest challenge is space. We don't have room to add any more staff really in our workroom. It's very crowded. And for program space, that's been a challenge too. Now that we have the makerspace, we have 3 different spaces that we could do programs in. We have the community room, we have the makerspace, and then we also have the teen room, which can be used specifically for teen programs. So I think if we had more resources available to us, we would just expand the programs that we offer and possibly look at adding more languages to our collection. That's something that we've been talking about as Tualatin's demographics change over time. We find there are more people speaking Vietnamese in our community. There are more Pacific Islanders in our community, and it might be good for us to explore adding some of those languages to our collection as well.
Yvonne.
I always have questions, but it would be so wonderful if the city could expand the library program to include the Ice Age display that we have and the Ice Age work, because it's getting so scientific with the addition of University of Oregon, Portland State, and Oregon State. It would be a perfect learning place for us to expand. I know that's hard to say to you, but it would be great if the city would go together.
Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, the library is serving as our visitor center. But yes, there is a limit to how much we have a limit on space. And so there's only so much we can display. And I know Yvonne would fill our library with stuff if we had the opportunity. There's lots of things that we could bring in to grow that natural history aspect if we had more space.
Thank you.
Karen, did you have something that you wanted to toss in there?
Well, I just said Yvonne would bring in another big rock. But we'll keep them at the Heritage Center.
The rocks
One
are,
thing I did, you have this checkout service for, like you said, board games.
Mhm.
What about jigsaw puzzles?
We haven't added jigsaw puzzles yet, but that's something we could consider.
Because
think
you
that'd
put
be a
it
good
together,
suggestion?
and then what do you do with it?
Yeah, and then just bring it back.
Yep.
Mhm.
By the way, there is a service going on right now in Tualatin. It's based out of the whole area, really, for puzzle people. Twice a month, I think, at the Grange, people can go and bring a puzzle and take home a puzzle or some number. And it's quite a busy thing. I've watched it happen once or twice. Lots of people coming and going with puzzles under their arms.
When is that?
I can't tell you, but I could, I'll have to find out.
Email me.
Yeah.
Because I,
We have
during
puzzles, Karen. You
COVID, I
can-
did all my puzzles twice. And so it's like, yeah, I don't want to do them again.
Well, it was busy during COVID for sure.
Mm.
But speaking of puzzles, which is something kind of unique, Laura just advised me, I didn't know this, but through a program available to you, people can stream movies through the Washington County. Could you comment about that program?
Yeah, it's a service called Canopy with a K. And if you've got a smart TV like that'll let you download apps, you can download the app directly to your TV, just like Netflix. You can also use it on your computer, and you're able to stream. They have lots of, it's not so much the blockbuster type movies, but it's a lot of independent movies, documentaries, the Criterion collection. A lot of those movies are on there. So a good mix of classic and more recent movies, but not necessarily like, Star Wars or that kind of level of movie.
Mhm.
So there's a cost behind those, but that's again where the levy across the county helps buy the rights to these or something.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
one more question. Are you going to tell us how to get a hold of the Ice Age video?
Yeah, there's a link on YouTube, and I'd be happy to email that to Ross to share out if that's desired.
I can find
But
it.
you can, okay, yeah, you can
I-
find it on YouTube.
Yeah, no, I found it a month ago before you guys even knew that it was there. I found it.
I think more and more people will notice if they get some word from you that it's okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've already spoken to Scott Burns, and we're gonna, now that you've communicated with most of your organization, we wanted to hold back. We're gonna start putting it on our webpage, our Facebook, and even on Nextdoor. We put plugs in on Nextdoor. Scott Burns wants the word out. He wants it out there so you guys can start, I don't know, begging for money or something.
Yes, Scott is our leader, but Jerianne, Linda, and I all work hard to get that video done too.
Yeah, no, I've seen it, and it's clear. It's beautiful, and I'm glad you got the right amount of funding that you needed to do a decent job on that, because if it was done unprofessionally, it would not have the impact that it's going to have. It's great, and it's
I
long.
think-
I mean, it's like a half an hour long.
Mhm.
Yes, it is. One
Yeah.
of the benefits was we have a new friendship with the Grand Ron tribe, and it's great. 3 people participated from the tribe on that.
That's a big deal. I can't get them to return my email, so 3 people, you're winners. More questions for Jerianne?
Well, thank you, Jerianne. I think we pretty well covered the time, but if anyone does have another question, I think we could say, watch soon for this Zoom meeting to be online at the Heritage Center site, Historical Society site. and people can review it, or you can share it with others who might want to know more about Jerianne, our distinguished Director of Library Services for the City of Tualatin. So one
And
more
we'll
chance.
we'll also have it on our YouTube channel. And the Tualatin, Jerianne has invited the Tualatin Historical Society to join a Tualatin Library Advisory Committee in the next month or so, and we'll be at that meeting updating them on everything that they want to know. We'll be working with Jerianne on that offline.
It's been a great partnership between the library and the Historical Society since I've been here. I really enjoy our partnership together. And thank you so much for inviting me to come and speak to you today.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jerianne. Good job.
Yeah.